So before anything else, will we please stand and bow our heads and feel the presence of the Lord? In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, take your seats. I will check your attendance first. Once your name is called, please raise your hands. Okay, very good. Everyone is present. How's your day? Okay, very good. That's great. So, before we going to proceed to our topic for today, can we have a recap from our last topic? So, anyone can recall what it is? Okay, last time we talked about philosophy. So, we understand that philosophy is known to be the mother of all disciplines, simply because all study began with a philosophical discourse. So, we also understand that philosophy employs an inquisitive mind to discover philosophical causes, reasons, and principles in everything. So from our last topic, we also understand that the etymological definition of philosophy is came from the word love of wisdom, which is philo means love and Sophie or Sophia means wisdom or love of wisdom that could pertain to the desire of truth, formulating a never-ending questions that could provide each query to the nature of the existence or the nature of the human existence. So the nature of the self is the most common or the most interesting topic among different philosophers. So different philosophers give different characteristics and meaning about the self. So over time, it transformed from basic abstractions to explanations that hold scientific truths. This moment, I will going to present about the philosopher's point of view about the nature of the self. So there are different views of philosophers about the nature of the self to give a wider understanding about the self. Okay, so for now we're going to talk about Socrates. So Socrates is known as one of the most important philosophers in history. He is often described as the father of Western philosophy. So he is concerned with the problem of the self. His philosophy underlies in the importance of the notion of knowing oneself. He also pointed out that the human choice was motivated by the desires of happiness. For him, man's goal is to obtain happiness. So happiness motivates us to act towards or avoid things that could have negative effects in our lives. Thus, by fully knowing oneself, a person will be able to achieve happiness. So, that means, according to Socrates, that a person, in order to achieve those happiness, he will be, or that person must be able to understand his or her own self. By knowing that, he will going to achieve that so-called happiness. So Socrates said that the possession of knowledge is a virtue. Ignorance is depravity. So Socrates also quoted that the unexamined life is not worth living. So a person's acceptance of ignorance in the beginning is the beginning of the acquisition of knowledge. So that means that once a person start to accept his not knowing about his way of living in the world, it is the start of earning step-by-step knowledge of everything. So, Socrates also said that every person is dualistic, which means that a man is composed of body and soul, which is the physical, the body is constantly changing, which over time it changes, while the soul is the unchanging one. It is permanent. So individual, which composed of imperfect and permanent, which is the body, and the perfect, which is also permanent, which is the soul. Next is Plato. So Plato was a student of Socrates and he was born in Athens. He quoted that if we are ever to have a pure knowledge of anything, we must get rid of the body and contemplate things by themselves with the soul. So according to Socrates, that if one person is knowledgeable enough, have that capacity to balance about everything, because as what he said, that body is troublemaking. The body have lots of desires. So if one person have that knowledge about how to live a life in this world, so therefore he can balance about everything, and that will lead to finding soul by itself. According to Plato, that the body is the source of endless troubles. That is because of its endless desires. So, he also added that there are three components of the soul. First is the rational soul, second is the spirited soul, and third is the appetitive soul. So when we say rational soul, it is all about reasons and intellect to govern affairs. It is about to think deeply and to have a wise decision, wise choices in order to avoid mistakes. So next is the spirited soul. So when we talk about the spirited soul, it is all about emotions should be kept at bay. It is how we're going to handle our emotions, our anger, and our fear. It should be controllable. So next is the appetitive soul. So when we talk about it, appetitive soul, it is about our base desires, our eating, our drinking, and even those sexual desires. So, in his Magnus Opus, which is the Republic, Plato emphasizes that justice in human person can only be attained if the three parts of the soul are working harmoniously with another, which is the rational soul, forged by reason and intellect, has governed the affairs of the human person. So the spirited part, which is in charge of emotion, should be kept at bay, and the appetitive soul in charge of base desires like eating, drinking, sleeping, and having sex are controlled as well. So, according to Plato, that when this ideal state is attained, those three components of the soul, then the human person's soul becomes just and virtuous. So that's the only time that a person can fully attain soul by doing so, that by attaining those three components of the soul and be controllable. Next is Saint Augustine. So, Saint Augustine is a self-confessed sinner from North Africa who later became the bishop of Canterbury, who was greatly inspired by Plato. So, according to him, our world, which is our world of materials, is not our final home, but it's just a temporary home where we are just passing through. Our real world, according to Saint Augustine, is the world where God is. So, the world that we are living for today is just a temporary one, according to Saint Augustine, where we exercise different kinds of desires, different troubles and mistakes. It all are just temporary. So, by doing so, he also said that a real world is found in the world where God is, which is basically known as what we call as heaven. So according to Saint Augustine, that only God is fully real, the unchanging and permanent being. And he sees God as the ultimate expression of love. Therefore, in the world that we are living for today, we cannot see any human being expresses real love. So, therefore, as an example, when that one person says that he loves you, then that's just a temporary one. It is not being the permanent. Because according to Saint Augustine, that only God has the ultimate expression of love, the unchanging and the permanent. So he also said that, he also agreed that man is bifurcated nature. An aspect of man dwells in the world and is imperfect and continuously yearns to be with the divine, and the other is capable of reaching immortality. Which is, he also said that body dies on earth and the soul lives eternally in spiritual bliss. Next is René Descartes. So René Descartes, known to be the father of modern philosophy, he also said that human person is composed of body and the mind. So, according to René Descartes, there is so much that we should doubt. So, as he said that if something is so clear and lucid as not to be doubted, that's the only time one should believe. So, as what we see and hear about the teaching of Rene Descartes, he is near perfectionist because if some, according to him, that if something or something situation that you doubted, therefore, it is not true. It is not real because it can only be believable if that situation is something lucid and something clear. This Latin word, he said that cogito ergo sum, which means I think, therefore I am. So, he said that the self is composed of cogito and extensa, which means that cogito is the thing that thinks, and extensa, which is the extension of mind and body. He said that the body is attached to the mind. He also quoted that a person or I am a thinking thing, a thing that doubts, affirms, understands, denies, refuses, imagines, and perceives. According to Rene Descartes, that a person has the capability to think and doubts about everything he sees in the world. So next is David Hume. So he quoted that one can only know what comes from the sense and experiences. He is an empiricist. So it means that one can only understand or know about everything based on his own experiences and senses. So, you know that the other people are humans not because you have seen their soul, you have touched them, you have seen them, you have heard them, and etc. So, he also quoted that the self is nothing but a bundle of impressions and ideas. So, the self, according to David Hume, is composed of ideas, bundle of ideas and impressions based on his own experiences. So, impressions means basic objects of our experiences and sensation, while the idea is just a copy of impression. Next is Immanuel Kant. So, Immanuel Kant also agreed to the idea of David Hume, which is everything starts with a perception, sensation of impressions. So, according to Immanuel Kant, that there is a mind that regulates the impressions. Mind is a regulator, according to Immanuel Kant. So, he also quoted that time and space or etc. are the ideas that cannot be found in the world, but it is built in our minds. So, he said that we need an active intelligence to synthesize all the knowledge and experience. So, a human person must have a intelligence and intellect, knowledgeable about everything, to study about his own experiences, to have a full understanding of it. So, according to Immanuel Kant, that the self is not only personality, but also the set of knowledge. So, when we see that person, it is not all about what we see physically, but we must see that person that it is full of knowledge, that one person is composed of different knowledge. Next is Gilbert Ryle. So, Gilbert Ryle denies the internal, the non-physical self. So, he will only talks about behaviors. What we see is what matters. So, he said that what truly matters is the behavior that a person manifests in his day-to-day life. So, the self is not the entity one can locate and analyze, but simply the convenient name that we refer to the behaviors that we make. So, the self is not like what Rene Descartes, the thinking thing, but according to Gilbert Ryle, it's just only a convenient name to refer how we work, how we behave in our day-to-day living. Next is Merleau-Ponty. So he said that mind and body are inseparable. So mind and body is in separate ways. So he said that one's body is his opening towards the existence of the world. So the physical self or the body is the leading guide on how he exists in the world. And the living body, his thoughts, emotions, and experiences are all one. It is inseparable, so it just sum up to one, according to Merleau-Ponty. Okay, that's all for our discussion today, class. Any questions, clarifications? Okay, none so far? Thank you. So, let's now proceed to our assessments.
Assessment, ma'am? Yes, assessment.
Okay, our assessment for today is essay composed of 50 points. How do I understand myself? What led to this self? Okay, before we're going to start answering, I will read the rubrics first. So, organization, 10 points. If it is well structured, introduction, body, and conclusion with strong, sharply focused statement, it will be earned superior 8 to 10 points. Well-structured introduction, body, and conclusion with clear statement, proficient, 6 to 7 points. Properly structured introduction, body, and conclusion with satisfactory statement, 4 to 5 points. Poorly structured introduction, body, and conclusion with unclear statement, limited to 2 to 3 points. Introduction, body, and conclusion is incomplete, ineffective, or missing. No apparent statement, 0 to 1 points. So if the content, idea development is 30 points. Interesting and complete explanation of the topic with specific, accurate, and relevant information, the student will earn 8 to 10 points. Content is accurate and relevant and sufficient evidence to adequately explain topic, so proficient to 6 to 7 points. Explanation of topic is satisfactory with mostly sufficient evidence but mostly general. More detail needed, some factual errors, so 4 to 5 points. Partial or incomplete explanation of topic with insufficient evidence and inaccuracies, 2 to 3 points. Inadequate explanation of topic with inadequate or missing evidence and many factual errors, 0 to 1 points. So the mechanics is composed of 10 points. So, if the output is very clear and easily understood with few, if any, grammatical errors, paragraphs flow smoothly and transitions between sentences and or paragraphs are seamless and effective, so the student will earn 8 to 10 points. Sufficiently clear and understandable with few grammatical errors, sentences are sufficiently complete with only few structural errors, transitions are mostly effective, so the student will earn 7 to 6 points. Mostly clear and understandable with some grammatical errors, sentences are mostly complete with some structural errors, transitions are satisfactory, which means you can earn 4 to 5 points. Somewhat clear and difficult to understand with many errors, sentences are sometimes incomplete. With more than a few structural errors, transitions are ineffective, so the student will earn 2 to 3 points. Unclear and difficult to understand. With multiple errors, sentences are often incomplete. With many structural errors, transitions are missing, so 0 to 1 points. Okay, class, have you heard the rubrics? So you will now start writing. Okay, time is up. Pass your papers in front in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? Let's now proceed to our evaluation. So, before we're going to start answering, I will read the direction first. In your own words, state what is the meaning of self for each of the following philosophy. After doing so, explain how your concept of self is compatible with how they conceive of the self. So, 2 points each. But before you start answering, there's also a criteria. Actually, this criteria is a criteria friendly. So, I will give 2 points if the explanation shows special careful development or related ideas incoherent. So I will give 1.5 points if the explanation shows careful development of related ideas incoherent. 1 point if the sequence of ideas is traceable, although some structures are faulty. 0.5 if the are not coherent, showing little development of relationship among ideas. Okay, class, you will now start answering. Okay, the time is up. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, pass your papers in front. But before you're going to go home, I will give you assignments. So, for your assignment class, advanced study regarding unpacking the self for our next topic and make a short reflection. Okay, thank you. But before you go, please pick up the pages of papers. Thank you, goodbye, and God bless.